So, as we find ourselves at the end of our Wednesday, that for some of us feels like a Monday or a Tuesday with the way that our weeks have gone, go ahead and just find yourself in a comfortable seat. We are going to actually start tonight with stretching out our eyes, which is something that I have never done until recently. And if you work on a screen, you might have started to notice that eye strain feels differently than how you expected, but also is kind of unavoidable. When we aren't working on a screen, we can like take a break and go outside and do more things, or we aren't using our eyes in the same way. And so for those of us that work on screens, or as we're here on a screen right now, I want to give us some stretches for our eyes that can just help reset throughout the day. And also just give you a chance to focus on something else other than whatever you had before here or whatever you have after here. So find yourself somewhere comfortable. It doesn't matter if you're sitting cross-legged. You can even be lying down if you'd like to for this. We will sit up for our first little bit of a pose, but wherever you are, go ahead and just begin to take 5 deep breaths and notice anything about your body that feels tense. You might have already noticed things in your neck or your lower back, but just move in whatever way feels like what you need for 5 breaths. And then after that, just return to a comfortable position and begin to start just looking to the left and the right without moving your head, with only moving your eyeballs. And so maybe you want to look and see how far over to the left you can look, and then how far over to the right you can look. And then we'll start syncing this with our breath. So as you take an inhale, look to the left. As you take an exhale, look back to the center. As an inhale, look to the right. And do this for about a minute, kind of going left and right. If you'd like to increase the speed, you're welcome to. It's your eyes. If this feels super strange for you and or is painful for you in any way, just close your eyes and focus on your breath. But just trying to notice what it feels like to move our eyes without moving our head. And as you're doing this, maybe you begin to notice that you are sinking a little bit more into the ground. Maybe begin to focus a little bit more on taking this time of this hour to yourself. And do this a couple more times. And once you feel complete, come back to the center and just blink a few times, just looking straight ahead. And then we're going to do the same thing for about a minute, looking up and looking down without moving our neck or our head, just our eyes. So maybe see if you can look all the way up at your ceiling and see if you can look all the way down. Maybe you can see your feet, but if you have to move your head to see your feet, just look as far down as you can. Maybe you want to inhale and look up, exhale and look down. Take 5 more breaths this way. Noticing your body's desire possibly to move your neck while you're moving your eyes. We'll get to that. And then now we're going to repeat those left, right, up, and down, but we're going to twist our head this time. And so now we're going to begin stretching our neck. So we're just going to, on an inhale, look to our left, twisting our head this time where we're actually looking our entire head to the left, and then look to the right. On an exhale and inhale, we look back to the left. Exhale, look to the right. Do this 5 more times on your own. And if you're lying down, it might feel nice on the back of your head to notice your head just tracing its way across the mat, feeling that. Once you feel complete, just come back to neutral in the center. Just close your eyes for just a moment and take a breath in. Noticing if anything feels different. Exhale, sigh out your mouth. And then blink back open your eyes, and we're going to do up and down this time, moving our head. So lifting our chin as we inhale to look up towards the ceiling. And then as we exhale, looking down either to the floor or our navel. I'm doing this 5 times total. So 5 inhales looking upward, exhales looking downward. Just noticing. You can do these with your eyes closed if you would like. And after your final one, just coming back to neutral. If you were lying down, these might have been a little bit different, but hopefully you were able to get somewhat of a neck stretch. And then we're just going to do a few shoulder rolls. And so if you are sitting up, go ahead and inhale your shoulders up to your ears and exhale, roll them back. If you're lying down, maybe you want to see what it feels like to try and move your shoulder blades up and your shoulders up to your ears, and then shift them down. Do that 3 times, inhaling up to your ears, exhaling down. If you want to add in a roll where you're rolling them backwards as you do that, if you're seated, go ahead and do that. And then we'll just reverse that motion. So we'll inhale and kind of sink our shoulders down, which feels a little counterintuitive. And then exhale, bring them up. So this is a really opposite way to stretch our neck, but can help us really notice what it feels like to do things out of a pattern. And so tonight's class, I want us to focus on just noticing the senses in our body. Tonight we opened with eye stretches, so kind of focusing on what we take in through our eyes is something that I think we might not often do, but we are on screens a lot these days. Maybe it's for work, maybe we're just watching more movies, playing games, talking with friends through screens. But just really be mindful of what you're taking in and how it impacts you and how you feel it in your body. Because whatever we take in through our senses, even if it doesn't feel like it affects us, it does, whether that be physically or mentally. And so just noticing that. So wherever you are, go ahead and find yourself back into a comfortable seat. So if you're lying down, take an inhale and maybe roll up or roll to one side. And then once we're in a comfortable seat, we're just going to inhale and stretch our arms out to each side, opening our chest. And then we're going to exhale and twist to the right. So bring our left hand to our right knee, right hand behind us, looking wherever is comfortable for your neck, stretching as much as you'd like to or as little as you'd like to, but just noticing at the length of our spine. Take an inhale in this twist. Then on an exhale, just bring your arms back up, come back to the center. Take an inhale breath, twist the opposite side, twisting to the left, bring right hand to the left elbow. Taking a breath here in this twist, noticing this side of your body, noticing if it feels like you can twist farther one way or the other. Not trying to change it, just noticing it. And inhaling, bring your arms back up, exhale back to the center. And then before we move into our first pose, I just want us to take an inhale, and on our exhale, just give ourselves a hug. We've done the last 2 weeks with kind of starting with a foot massage, but tonight I just want us to just be with ourselves and just continue taking this time, continue showing ourselves that love, showing our bodies love, and just being here. And so inhale, opening back up, spreading our arms back wide. And then one more time, exhaling, putting the opposite arm on top, giving yourself a hug again. Noticing if you feel this in your back or your neck. If you'd like to drop your head down here, maybe it can stretch out the back of your neck, or if you'd like to look up, you can stretch out the front. Just be careful not to make anything painful. And then on your next inhale, just bring your arms back out to the side. And on exhale, just sigh and drop them down. So the first pose we're going to start in tonight is actually going to be child's pose. So from your seat, go ahead and come onto hands and knees into a tabletop position. And from this tabletop position, we'll just do a couple cat-cows to continue warming up our spine before we move into poses that will hold for longer. So just inhaling, looking up, dropping our navel, and then exhaling, arching our spine. Just 3 times. Inhaling and exhaling. Inhale one more time. And then on an exhale, go ahead and move your hands a little bit forward. Sink your hips back towards your heels. You can decide if you'd like this to be a wide-legged child's pose or knees together, whatever works for you and you need tonight. It might change the sensation in your lower back, so adjust your knees as you need to. And just go ahead and see if on an exhale you can sink a little bit closer to the ground, sink your body closer to the floor, and just let something go. Whether that be physical tension, something on your mind, just let it go and melt into the floor as you maybe close your eyes, press your forehead into the mat, and just drop into this space. We have just about 50 more minutes together. And so for these next 45 to 50 minutes, just see if you can completely be here. And whatever you need to do in order to do that, I encourage you to do. One thing that I often recommend is just paying close attention to the breath and kind of creating either a visualization or maybe counting the breath. Maybe you would like to count into a count of 4, exhale to a count of 5 or 6. But see if you can challenge yourself to just be here with your breath and your body and your mat and really focus on everything that you feel here. No need to analyze anything tonight. No need to wonder about why things happen. You can do that after if you'd like. Just be in the moment. And so on your next exhale, make any adjustments that you need and just fully settle in and allow yourself to be supported by your mat, by your breath, and by yourself. And I like to try and have a quote each week to resonate or reflect back on. And this week, for some reason, Winnie the Pooh kept coming up for me. So one of my favorite Winnie the Pooh quotes, or from the Winnie the Pooh series, movie, cartoon, stories, is just that it says this: you're braver than you believe, stronger than you seem, and smarter than you think. I think sometimes when we come to getting to know ourselves or spending time with ourselves, it can be really easy to doubt ourselves or think that we need to fix something or that we aren't something enough. Just remember that you have exactly what you need to do exactly what you need to do. And if you've been here for the last few weeks, we've talked a lot about noticing what you love about yourself. And I encourage you to continue that, but I encourage you also just to be with yourself. Notice what you need and just do that. And so if at any time you want to come out of a pose or stay in a pose longer, feel free to do that. I'll let us know where we're going and you can pick up at any time that makes sense for you. And taking a couple more breaths in this child's pose. knowing that we will be moving in just a few moments. And on your next inhale, press your hands into the mat and slowly begin to rise yourself back up to tabletop position. And then shift your legs back out from under you, straighten out your legs, and come down onto your belly into a Sphinx pose. And so straightening out your legs behind you, bringing your elbows underneath your shoulders, forearms on the mat, palms down. And from here, maybe you need to like rock your hips side to side to stretch them out. Maybe you want to lift up one leg and move it back in space and do the other to stretch that out. And we're just going to allow our heart to be held by our shoulders in a hammock-like position and just release any upper back of the neck tension. So just take an inhale and look up to the ceiling if that's comfortable for you. And then on an exhale, allow yourself to just sink with your elbows planted into the mat, dropping your head down. And just see if you can let your head hang, let your heart hang between your shoulders. And just allow yourself to support yourself and let your head go. We spend all day holding our head up, doing our jobs, walking around, reading, talking, and just being attentive to what we need to do. Right now, all you need to do is just rest and release. And just take another inhale breath here. And on an exhale, bring your head back up to neutral. And from here, we're going to shift into downward dog as a transition. And so go ahead and just adjust as you need to, planting your hands, coming up maybe into a tabletop position, and then tucking your toes underneath you, doing a cat-cow if you need to for your spine. Then tucking your toes, lifting your hips, and sending them up to the sky. Maybe you want to pedal out your downward dog a little bit, bending one knee at a time. Maybe you want to continue letting your head release and just shake it between your arms. And then from here, we're going to move into lizard pose. And so what we'll do is just inhale, lifting up our right leg, and then exhale, bend your knee and bring it towards your nose, but then step it to the outside of your right hand. And then drop your left knee down, pushing your right knee a little bit forward. So we're in a lunge, but a low lunge. And then bringing both of your palms to the inside of your right foot. Just adjusting as you need to. Maybe you want to make sure there's padding like a blanket underneath your left knee. But just decide if you would like to stay upright or if you'd like to put a block or something underneath your right hands and come down onto that. You should really feel this in the opening part of the front side of your left hip and the back side of your right leg. Make sure that your knee doesn't go past your ankle. Just be in this for a couple minutes on each side. Coming back to your breath if you've lost it, making sure to keep count of that. And allowing yourself to just stretch open and also challenge yourself to feel the center part of your body, feel that midline, feel your core. Aren't trying to tense anything, but you're allowing your body to stretch in opposite directions while also holding it together. So make sure your knee isn't splaying out to one side. If you would like to change this and make it a different sensation in your hips, you're welcome to roll open that right foot. So kind of opening up your leg, dropping your knee out to the right. Doesn't always feel great on everyone's hips, so do what feels good for you. Taking another 5 breaths on this side, and then we're going to transition into our pigeon pose on this side. So we won't be coming back to downward dog just yet. Seeing if on your next exhale, you can just allow yourself to stretch a little bit farther. Maybe you're at a 5 out of 10 and you want to see if you can move to a 6 out of 10. And on your next inhale, press your hands into the ground and just begin to move your right hand to the outside of your right foot and walk your right foot to the left of your mat so that you can just allow that right knee to just drop, tucking your left toe, bring it in a little bit, and just move into a pigeon pose from lizard pose. And so at this point, your hips might be hanging in the air and you might want to put a prop underneath your right hip. Pressing into the mat, maybe if you like to do that front of the neck stretch, looking up to the ceiling. And then on your next exhale, walk your hands forward or come down onto forearms or onto a prop in front of you. And just melt into pigeon pose on this side, making any adjustments that you need to. And just noticing where sensation and attention shift from your left hip to your right hip now. It's only this minimal amount of change in our body. Just letting yourself release, noticing your hips, noticing your back. Seeing if on an inhale, you can just breathe energetically all the way down the back side of your body to your lower back. And then on an exhale, maybe you want to open your mouth and just sigh it out and release and sink a little bit. I encourage you tonight to keep your eyes closed through as much of class as you feel comfortable and just focus on noticing the internal sensations. Noticing what your body needs and just moving intuitively. We spend so much of our days taking things in with our eyes that it can be nice to use other senses as well and give that one a break. Coming back to our breath. On your next inhale, press your hands into your mat. And we are going to come back to downward dog, transition to the other side. So pressing your hands in, tucking your left toe, lifting up that right leg and bringing it back up to the sky. Maybe you want to stay in three-legged dog. Maybe you want to open it up into scorpion for a moment. And then on exhale, just plant it by your left foot, walking out your legs in any way that you need to. And then when you're ready, on an inhale, lift up your left leg. Exhaling, bringing it through, bringing it to the outside of your left hand. Dropping your right knee, inching it back a little bit. And then bringing both hands to the inside of your left foot. Setting up for a lizard on this side. Maybe you want to come down onto a prop or forearms on this side. Maybe not. Either way is fine. Just noticing what you need to be able to sit in this pose, stretching out your hips for a couple minutes. Coming back to your breath, challenging yourself a little bit if this pose is feeling more active than you were wanting. Just allow yourself to sink into this. This is one of the most active poses that we'll do in tonight's class. The rest of them will be more of our traditional yin lying around poses. But just see if you can notice the way that the sensation feels in your hips and your legs. And see if maybe on an exhale you want to drop your head to give it some more rest. And you know where we'll be going from this side in just a few minutes. So if you'd like an extended pigeon pose instead of lizard pose, you're welcome to take that. I encourage you to try and stay in things that are causing challenge, move out of things that are causing pain, and see what is there for you. Taking 3 more breaths on this side of lizard. Maybe if you were about to come out of it, just stay in it for a couple more breaths, sinking into that feeling, riding the wave of sensation, letting it show you what is there. And then on an inhale, moving your left hand to the outside of your left foot, starting to inch it across the right side of your mat so that you can drop that left leg down into pigeon, and moving your right leg as you need to, adjusting it, maybe in, adding any props under your left hip, putting any props in front of you that you like to come down onto. And inhaling, stretching, and exhaling, just letting yourself sink into pigeon on this side with your left leg forward and your right leg back. Always coming back to your breath. Imagining that as you inhale, you can inhale all the way into the parts of your body that are feeling this the most. And then as you exhale, maybe if you notice there's some tension, imagine that you can release that tension just by exhaling. Imagine that if there's a knot in your body, the exhale can just unwind it, untie it. And then maybe eventually it will feel more untied and unwound. Taking 2 more breaths on your next exhale, or final exhale. Pressing your hands into your mat, tucking your back toe, and then just coming back to downward dog. So sweeping that left leg back up to the sky. Maybe you want to open up your hip, and then pressing it back down. And from here, we're just going to walk our hands back to our feet. So we are in a forward fold. Do that as slowly as you'd like to. If your hands can reach the ground, great. If they can't, no problems. But just allow your head to hang for a moment. Maybe you want to grab opposite elbows and just hang in ragdoll pose for just a moment. Noticing what it feels like to be in a forward fold, to be upside down. And then we're just going to sink down into a malasana squat for our next pose. And so if you know that you would like to have something to kind of rest your seat on, go ahead and make sure that that's nearby you. But just go ahead and inhale. And then as you exhale, just like begin to drop your hips back as if you would be coming into a chair pose, and sink your hips down towards the ground so that you're in a squat position. Maybe you need to spread out your feet a little bit. Maybe your heels can touch the ground, maybe they can't. No problem either way. If you'd like to have a block under your seat to sit on, grab that. Go ahead and just sink down into a malasana squat. Maybe bring your hands to prayer in front of you at your heart center. We'll just be in this pose for a couple minutes. This is often a transition pose, but it often can be a pose also where we just come back, refocus, recenter. You can keep your head up and look straight ahead if you'd like. You can also drop your head down, close your eyes. Just feel into your hips. This pose can really help with digestion, can help just reset a lot of things. We have a lot of lymph nodes, a lot of nerve endings. A lot of things are centered in our hips. And this can allow them all to just recenter, refocus, and reset. And if you'd like to add a twist into this, what you can do on your next inhale is just plant your right hands down in front of you and then open up your left arm, straightening it out so that your right elbow is kind of pressing into your right knee. Your left hand is open outward, stretching out. And you're feeling the stretch across your back, across your chest. It's also somewhat of a balancing pose. That can feel really nice if you like more of a stretch and an opening. And hold that for a couple breaths. And exhaling, maybe switching. I'm going to plant your left hand down, open up your right arm. Do this in whatever way you need to, or don't do it at all. It's just adding a stretch if you'd like that, and a twist if you'd like that too. And then coming back to the center, bringing our hands back to our heart center if they're not there already. And then just placing them on the ground in front of you. You can straighten out your legs if you'd like to, but we're just going to move on to sitting on our heels for just a moment before we move into toes pose. So if you haven't woken up the bottom of your feet today, now will be the time. And so if you know that toes pose doesn't work for you, I encourage you to try it again, but if it still doesn't work for you, you are welcome to take a child's pose. But from here, we'll just come up to our hands and knees momentarily, tuck both of our toes underneath us, and then set back on our heels. Might want a block or a blanket between your seat and your heels if you need that. Just make sure that your toes are tucked underneath you. And if this pose is challenging for you and kind of bringing you out of class and hard to focus on, come back to your breath. You can add in eagle arms, which is similar to that hug we did at the beginning. So you can inhale, stretch your arms out to the side. Exhale, cross one arm over the other, bending at the elbows, bringing them up in front of you. And then from here, if you'd like to add a neck stretch, it can feel nice depending on which arm is on top to drop one ear to one shoulder. Seeing what that feels like across the side of your neck, across the backs of your shoulders. So I have my right arm on top and I'm dropping my right ear to my right shoulder. For me, it's not as much of a stretch if I drop to the left with my right arm on top, but it might be for someone else. Taking a couple more breaths with whichever arm is on top. And then when you're ready, inhaling your arms back out. Exhale, switching which one's on top. Back to that eagle arms, cresting, bending at the elbows. Maybe you're going to drop your left ear to your left shoulder now. We're just challenging yourself to notice sensation. Wake up the bottom of your feet. And coming back to just noticing that internal experience. What does this feel like in your body? How can you calm your body through focusing on it, through breathing, and through doing what you know it needs? Take 2 more breaths here. And then on an inhale, open back up your arms if you had them crossed. Dropping them to the sides. Coming forward onto your hands so you can untuck your toes and just pat out your toes on the mat. Just recirculate anything. And then we're going to move into either saddle or fish pose, whichever one you would prefer. Both of these are chest openers, but one can also be a hip opener. So if you'd like to do saddle pose, you'll just come down where you're sitting between your heels. So your heels are on each side of your hips. You might want to have a bolster or blocks behind you because you will just plant your hands on either side of your feet behind you and slowly walk them back until you feel like you are where you'd like to be, and then you'll rest your back on your prop. If you'd like to do fish pose, you can bring your legs out in front of you, placing blocks at your shoulder blades, and then draping yourself back over those. Saddle pose kind of accomplishes 2 things. Fish pose allows your hips to get a break from stretching. Well, wherever you are, focus on allowing this pose to be a chest opener. Might also be a hip opener for you. And so as you settle into this pose, decide how open you would like to be. Maybe you want your arms up over your head. Maybe you want them out to your side, or maybe you want to place them on your chest or your belly. Just find the opening that you need. Take a couple exhales to sink in. And wherever you are, if you'd like to add in more of a chest opener, or if you'd like to place your hands on your belly and return to your breath, noticing it, your belly rise as you inhale, sink as you exhale. Just take your last 3 breaths and whatever else you would like to try in this pose. And then wherever you are, begin to press your elbows and your forearms and then your hands into the mat to come up just enough to move any props that are underneath you out from under you. And then come up, and if you're in saddle pose, swing your legs out, bring them out long in front of you, and then just lie back on your back. Bring your knees into your chest. And just rock and roll a few times to the side. Maybe place your hands on your knees and draw circles with your knees, rotating out your hips, making sure that if you draw circles one way, you also draw them the other way a couple times. And then from here, we're going to move into happy baby before we move into a twist. So with your knees in, go ahead and bring your feet up to the ceiling. See if you can grab onto the outsides of your feet, your hands, and just draw your knees into your armpits. You want to continue that rocking motion. If you want to rock a little bit forward and backwards on the length of your spine, just be really careful with your neck. Just noticing what you feel. And then just bringing your feet back down, your knees back together. We're going to move into supine twist, which you can do with your knees just together, going to one side or the other, or you can do eagle legs. I'm going to cue us through eagle legs with our right leg, lifting it up, draping it over our left leg, and then dropping both of our knees to the left side of our mat. If you don't want to cross your legs, you're welcome to just leave your knees stacked and notice what it feels like if you have your knees in closer or farther away. You'll feel the stretch differently in your back. Just dropping your knees to the left, trying to keep both shoulders on the mat. Maybe you want to look over your right shoulder to get more of a stretch. Maybe you want to look up to the ceiling. We're just settling into a twist, wringing out anything else in your body, letting it go as you exhale and sink into the mat, sink into the pose. On your next inhale, if you have your legs crossed, go ahead and begin to uncross them. And then just bring your knees back up to center. You need to windshield wiper them a little bit in the middle, or if you'd like stillness, moving your feet to the outsides of your mat, dropping your knees in, just letting them be for just a moment before we move to the other side. And when you're ready, just bringing your knees back up to the ceiling, lifting up your left leg, this time crossing it over the right. And then on an exhale breath, just dropping both knees over to the right, either crossed or stacked. And always remembering each side is different. Maybe you need a prop on this side to catch your knees. Maybe you don't want to cross your legs on this side. Feeling really mindful of how this feels across your back. Taking care of yourself while also letting things go. Coming back to your breath. Inhaling. Exhaling, seeing if you can twist a little bit more. Seeing if maybe you want to try stretching out your arm to the left or overhead. But just soaking in these last few breaths before we transition into our final resting pose. On your next inhale, uncross your legs. Begin to slowly bring your knees back up to the center. Windshield wipering them as you need to, letting them sink, letting your feet go out to the edges and your knees sink towards the middle, and taking any more movements that you need. Maybe you want to Bring your knees back into your chest or do happy baby one more time. But just taking what you need and then stretching out your legs, lying flat on your back and coming into Shavasana, whatever you need for that tonight. If you'd like to put a bolster under your feet, under your knees to allow some different rest for your lower back, maybe that might feel nice. If you'd like to do Shavasana face down, maybe that would feel nice. But just coming into your Shavasana, your final pose, and just resting, letting everything soak in, letting anything else go. Just coming back to that breath. Inhaling to a count of maybe 4. Exhaling to a count of 5 or 6. And just relax. Taking one more inhale and exhale, just sigh out through your mouth. Begin to wiggle your fingers and your toes, coming back to your body if you got fully into relaxation. And then in your own time, rolling over to one side, resting in the fetal position for a moment if you'd like to. Maybe stretching out your arms over your head before you move. And then coming up to a seat when you're ready. Keeping your eyes closed if you want to. And once you find yourself at a seat, either bring your hands to your heart center or just place them over your heart. And see if with your eyes open or closed, you can just find and notice your heartbeat. And if you're trying this with your eyes closed, I encourage you over the next week to just notice things without needing to see them. Maybe try these eye stretches again at the end of each day or in the middle of your day, but just see which ways you can use your other senses other than just your sight to notice things around you, to notice things inside of you. And so wherever you are, just take one more breath together. So inhaling, filling yourself up with whatever you need, and then exhaling, letting go of whatever you don't. Thanks for taking this time with me, for yourself. Hopefully you can cozy up for the rest of your evening. Don't have anything too much to do. And I'll see you next time.